The communications officer, Staff Sergeant Maya Winters, pressed her body flat against the frozen earth as superheated plasma turned the command center into molten slag 20 meters behind her. Blood trickled from her ears, the concussive force having ruptured her eardrums, but her augmented neural implant, standard issue for forward reconnaissance specialists, compensated by routing audio directly through bone conduction. Still transmitting, she whispered to no one, her gloved fingers trembling as they maintained the uplink to the quantum-entangled emergency broadcast system. The handheld device, designed to function even during nuclear strikes, captured everything. The crystalline vessels descending through storm clouds, the impossible precision of weapons that seemed to bend physics itself, and most importantly, the methodical pattern of the attack. Above her, Cerulean dropships deployed in a perfect hexagonal formation. Too perfect, she realized. Their attack patterns revealed a fundamental rigidity, an adherence to geometric precision that no human commander would maintain when faced with irregular terrain. The aliens were executing textbook maneuvers, but it was clearly their textbook. As the facility's ammunition depot detonated in a secondary explosion, Winter's implant captured the aliens' reaction, a momentary hesitation in their formation, a fractional adjustment that revealed something profound. They were surprised by the force of human munitions. They're learning about us, just as we're learning about them, she murmured into her transmitter, the insight striking her with sudden clarity. And they're making assumptions. 3 kilometers away, in what remained of the base's underground medical facility, Captain Chen pulled herself from beneath a collapsed support beam. The impact had shattered her ribs, driving bone fragments dangerously close to her left lung. Her combat medical implant flooded her system with targeted analgesics and clotting factors, buying her precious minutes. "Status report," she croaked, scanning the darkened room for survivors. Emergency lighting bathed the scene in crimson, revealing 5 bodies, 3 in uniform, 2 civilian researchers who'd been visiting the outpost. Chen checked each pulse methodically, finding none. Then came a sound, a faint moan from beneath an overturned examination table. She dragged herself toward it, leaving a smear of blood across the floor. Specialist Rodriguez, the base's communications technician, lay pinned beneath debris, alive but fading. "Captain," Rodriguez wheezed, "why aren't they just finishing us?" Chen's tactical mind processed the question, reviewing what they'd witnessed. The precision strikes had targeted command structures, power generation, and communications, but had deliberately avoided complete saturation bombing. "They're making a point," she realized, the epiphany sending a cold clarity through her pain-fogged mind. "This isn't extermination, it's demonstration." A shadow passed overhead. Another alien craft, its engines emitting a high-pitched whine unlike any human aircraft. Chen dragged Rodriguez into a supply closet as the ceiling groaned under structural stress. "They think we're beaten," she whispered, reaching for the emergency medical kit on the wall. "But they don't understand what humans do when cornered." Outside, the aurora borealis painted the Alaskan sky in sheets of green and blue, now punctuated by the alien vessel's purple exhaust trails. In orbit, General Vortak received preliminary damage assessments, his neural interface displaying a 98.7% destruction rating for the outpost. "Sufficient demonstration," he declared to his command staff. "Prepare the global broadcast. These humans will understand their place in our empire before their sun sets again." The transmission began to cycle through Earth's communication networks. But Vortak, in his arrogance, failed to notice a critical anomaly in the sensor readings. 17 human life signs remained at the supposedly obliterated facility, each one rapidly adapting to the catastrophe in ways his tactical simulations deemed statistically impossible. The half-buried Cerulean scout craft pulsed with faint bioluminescence, its damaged systems attempting self-repair even with its pilot dead. Private Kenzo Tanaka, Chen's demolition specialist with prosthetic legs from a previous combat deployment, worked methodically to bypass what appeared to be the equivalent of a security system. It's recognizing the pilot's absence, he explained, neural interface translating the alien symbols scrolling across damaged displays. Some kind of deadman switch. Chen pressed a bandage against her side where makeshift surgery had stabilized her broken ribs. Can you override it? Tanaka's laugh was humorless. Not with any tech we have. But his eyes sparked with the sudden inspiration that had kept him alive through 3 tours in the resource wars. These systems respond to biomatter. The pilot's tissue might still carry authentication markers. 20 minutes later, wearing makeshift hazmat suits assembled from emergency gear, they extracted genetic material from the dead Cerulean. Medical Officer Rivera, blood caked in her hair from a scalp wound, analyzed the samples using a portable field kit. It's not DNA as we understand it, she reported, eyes wide with scientific fascination overriding her exhaustion. It's something more like bacterial colonies with distributed intelligence. These aliens aren't individuals, they're collectives. The discovery proved crucial when Tanaka used the preserved tissue to activate the ship's weapon systems. The scout craft's particle cannon hummed to life, its targeting system projecting holographic interfaces into the freezing air. Broadcast this, Chen ordered as they recorded the process, transmitting through their jury-rigged communications array. Every military unit needs to know they can use their own technology against them. Halfway across the world, in a hardened command center beneath the Swiss Alps, General Hayes watched the transmission with 50 top military leaders from former adversary nations. The Russian general who'd tried to kill him during the Taiwan Strait crisis now stood shoulder to shoulder with him, their previous enmity rendered meaningless. Protocol Omega is designed for exactly this scenario, Hayes explained, activating a global hologram showing 10,000 independent cells lighting up across continents. No centralized command. No single point of failure. Each unit receives basic parameters, but makes autonomous decisions based on local conditions. This violates 2 centuries of military doctrine. The Chinese commander objected, though without conviction. Hayes' weathered face remained impassive. Doctrine evolved for fighting other humans. The Ceruleans expect hierarchical command structures because that's all they know. Their entire civilization operates on unified consensus, a strength against conventional opponents, but a critical weakness against us. The tactical implications weren't lost on anyone present. If the Ceruleans couldn't identify command nodes to target, their superior technology lost much of its advantage. We have 72 hours before they launch their main invasion, Hayes continued. Satellites show their fleet positioning for a coordinated strike. They're expecting submission. We'll give them chaos instead. As the commanders dispersed to implement their assignments, Hayes received an encrypted update from Alaska. Captain Chen's team had successfully weaponized the alien craft, using its own targeting systems to destroy a Cerulean reconnaissance drone. Attached to the message was something even more valuable: comprehensive scans of Cerulean shield modulation patterns. Send this to Dr. Wong at MIT immediately, Hayes ordered his communications officer. And get me Captain Chen directly. When Chen's battered face appeared on the secure channel, Hayes studied her with guarded hope. Your team's survival was statistically impossible. 7 personnel against technology centuries beyond ours. Chen's split lip curved into something resembling a smile. With respect, sir, the Ceruleans calculated those statistics. They don't understand what happens when humans have nothing left to lose. Hayes nodded, something like pride crossing his features. The world is implementing your improvisations as standard protocol. But I need more from your team. We're barely alive, sir. I know, but you've touched their technology. You've seen how they think. Hayes leaned closer to the screen. I need you to become our Trojan horse. Dr. Okaffer's laboratory, hastily relocated to an underground bunker beneath Johns Hopkins University, buzzed with the controlled chaos of scientific breakthrough. Researchers from 30 countries collaborated in tight shifts, their previous academic rivalries dissolved by existential urgency. The symbiotic relationship explains their technological approach. He explained to the Global Research Consortium. manipulating a 3D model of cerulean neural pathways. Their ships aren't vessels, they're extensions of themselves. A biochemist from Bangalore magnified a tissue sample, revealing microscopic filaments that pulsed with electrical activity despite being separated from the host. These neural colonies remain active for hours after death. The entire species functions as a distributed network, like a quantum internet made of living tissue, added a physicist from Lagos. That explains their instantaneous fleet coordination. Okafor nodded, dark circles under his eyes betraying 4 days without proper sleep. But it's also their weakness. They've evolved to communicate primarily through biochemical markers, which means they're vulnerable to chemical disruption. The team's virologists demonstrated this by exposing cerulean tissue to Earth's atmospheric compounds. The sample illuminated with warning patterns, its cellular structures recoiling from specific combinations. Concentrated methyl mercaptan causes immediate sensory overload, she reported. It's like tear gas, but orders of magnitude more effective against their chemoreceptors. Meanwhile, Captain Chen's team pursued a more direct approach to cerulean vulnerabilities. In a secure hangar, technical specialist Amanda Delgado had disassembled the captured scout craft's propulsion system. Their technology is biomechanical, she reported as Chen observed through a surgical mask, the air thick with antiseptic to prevent contamination of the alien components. These aren't circuits, they're synapses. The ship literally thinks. Can we communicate with it? Chen asked. Delgado shook her head. Not directly. But I've identified something remarkable. She pointed to what appeared to be nodules along neural pathways. These are chemoreceptors similar to those in the pilot. The ship was literally smelling its pilot's emotional state and adjusting performance accordingly. Chen's eyes widened with understanding. So if we could synthesize those emotional markers, we could potentially make their own technology ignore them, Delgado finished, or even perceive them as threats. The breakthrough came when Captain Chen herself volunteered for an experimental procedure. Using synthesized compounds derived from the dead cerulean pilot, Dr. Rivera injected a microscopic amount into Chen's bloodstream, then monitored her carefully for rejection. Your immune system is processing it, Rivera noted with cautious optimism. Not attacking it, but incorporating aspects of its structure. 6 hours later, Chen approached the scout craft wearing no protection. The vessel's sensors, previously hostile to human proximity, remained dormant. When she placed her hand on the control interface, the system activated, recognizing her as authorized. It's working, she whispered into her communicator. I smell like one of them now. The report reached General Hayes within minutes. His response was immediate. Expand the protocol. We need a full infiltration team. On his command ship, Vortak reviewed casualty reports with mounting irritation. Human resistance, while futile, was proving more resourceful than anticipated. When a subordinate suggested adjusting invasion protocols to account for human adaptability, Vortak struck him down with a neural whip. They're studying dead tissue and broken machines, he snarled to his command staff. Primitives poking at our refuse cannot comprehend our true capabilities. The Imperial chronicler dutifully recorded his dismissal, while quietly noting an anomaly in the sensor logs. The disabled scout craft's beacon had briefly reactivated before disappearing completely from their network. When he attempted to bring this to Vortak's attention, the general was occupied with preparations for the Worldbreaker's arrival. A minor sensor ghost, the chronicler decided, deleting the alert. Nothing worth disturbing the general over. It was exactly the kind of small detail that, compounded over time, would prove catastrophic to the cerulean invasion force. The automated drones that constituted Operation Scattered Thunder had been repurposed from every imaginable source: agricultural equipment, commercial delivery vehicles, even theme park animatronics, all retrofitted with heat signatures and movement patterns precisely calibrated to mimic human troop deployments. In Berlin, construction engineer Fatima Wolf watched her team's final modifications to excavation machinery before deployment. The hydraulics are rigged to fail at exactly the right moment, she explained to the military observer. They'll register as disabled combat vehicles to cerulean sensors, drawing fire that would otherwise hit actual human physicians. Similar preparations occurred globally. In Nairobi, wildlife conservation drones were reprogrammed to mimic infantry movements. In Rio, carnival floats concealed signal jammers designed to create the electronic signature of human command posts. Meanwhile, in the Arctic Circle training facility codenamed Gehenna, Captain Chen watched her Special Forces volunteers undergo the most radical physical alterations in military history. The synthesized cerulean pheromones had been refined into a targeted gene therapy that temporarily modified human biochemistry. The process is reversible, assured Dr. Rivera, though her voice lacked conviction. Theoretically, Chen observed through quarantine glass as Sergeant Diaz convulsed on an examination table, his sweat glowing faintly blue under UV lighting. His body is incorporating the compounds. Beyond our expectations, Rivera replied, checking monitors. His cellular chemistry is producing cerulean signaling molecules. To their sensors, he'll register as background noise. Not quite cerulean, but definitely not human. And the side effects? Rivera hesitated. Significant. Altered perception. Sensory overload. Potential neurological damage if maintained too long. We're administering stabilizers, but she trailed off, the ethical implications hanging between them. They're volunteers, Chen reminded her, as much for her own conscience as Rivera's. And if we fail, there won't be ethics committees to question our methods. Training proceeded with brutal efficiency. The volunteers, now called chameleons, learned to move in ways that wouldn't trigger cerulean motion detection, practiced breathing patterns that minimized carbon dioxide emissions, and studied cerulean ship schematics reconstructed from the captured scout craft. When 3 soldiers collapsed during an oxygen deprivation drill designed to simulate cerulean ship atmospherics, Chen refused to halt the program. Instead, she joined the next drill herself, demonstrating that she would ask nothing of her team she wouldn't endure personally. Across the globe, General Hayes' feat approached its culmination. As dawn broke over 6 continents, the decoy offensive launched with impressive verisimilitude. Retrofitted civilian aircraft performed attack runs that perfectly mimicked military tactics. Ground-based drones advanced in formation toward cerulean positions, broadcasting the electromagnetic signatures of human combat units. In orbit, Vortak watched with mounting satisfaction. Record every moment, he commanded. The Imperial Academy will study this textbook example of feudal resistance for generations. His tactical officer highlighted heat signatures of apparent human command centers. Shall we prioritize leadership targets, General? No, Vortak replied, mandibles clicking in amusement. Let them exhaust their strategic reserves first. I want their leaders to witness the full extent of their failure before we eliminate them. The order played directly into Hayes' strategy. Every drone destroyed, every decoy eliminated, provided crucial data on cerulean targeting algorithms and weapons capabilities. Information instantly transmitted to secure servers, where AI systems identified patterns and vulnerabilities. In her bare quarters at Gehenna, Captain Chen received final mission parameters as her team completed preparations. The message from Hayes was characteristically terse. Chameleon Team approved for Operation Trojan Horse. World Breaker Fleet arrival. 36 hours. Infiltration window. 18 minutes during primary engagement. No extraction plan authorized. Chen read the last line twice, then deleted the message. She'd known from the beginning this was likely a one-way mission. What surprised her was how little that troubled her now. Prometheus protocol is go, she announced over the team channel. Final equipment check in 30 minutes. We move at exactly 300. On the other side of the world, the first wave of decoy drones engaged cerulean ground forces, their destruction lighting up the night sky. a magnificent distraction orchestrated to conceal humanity's true strategy. The Exarillion ground commander, Submarshal Kirazat, had conquered 3 worlds in the Empire's name. He had faced organized resistance from civilizations with technology comparable to Earth's, and none had lasted beyond the 3rd planetary rotation. Yet here, in the 73rd hour of engagement, the humans continued fighting with undiminished intensity. "Physiologically impossible," he muttered, reviewing combat footage from his forward units. The human should be experiencing complete adrenal exhaustion, cognitive collapse from sleep deprivation, and systemic failure from sustained combat stress. Instead, they attacked with increasingly effective coordination. Kirazat's second-in-command approached with new intelligence. "The humans are using chemical stimulants," she reported, displaying analysis of captured specimens, compounds that override their natural limitations. "At what cost?" Kirazat demanded, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding tactical concerns. "Organ damage, neural degradation. They are knowingly destroying their bodies to extend combat effectiveness." The concept was so alien to Exarillion thought that Kirazat momentarily froze in cognitive dissonance. Exarillions operated according to strict biological efficiency, preserving the collective always outweighed short-term tactical advantages. The idea of self-destructive combat enhancement registered as a form of insanity. Before he could process this revelation, a new report arrived from the Mumbai sector, where civilian resistance had reached unprecedented levels. Ordinary humans without military training had converted a chemical manufacturing facility into an improvised weapons lab, producing compounds that interacted catastrophically with Exarillion respiratory systems. They synthesized this weapon in less than 12 hours, his intelligence officer reported with undisguised alarm, using publicly available chemical knowledge and industrial equipment. In separate incidents across 6 continents, Exarillion forces encountered human adaptations that defy prediction. Brazilian special forces, operating in the Amazon basin, had developed camouflage techniques that rendered them effectively invisible to Exarillion sensory systems by incorporating native plant compounds that interfered with their electromagnetic detection capacities. Ukrainian resistance fighters had reprogrammed agricultural drones to deliver localized EMP bursts that temporarily disabled Exarillion shield systems. Most disturbing to Kirazat was the psychological profile emerging from human prisoners. When a captured soldier was informed that his entire unit had been eliminated, he displayed not the expected submission but increased aggression. "Then I've got nothing left to lose," the human had told his interrogator before attempting to attack with an improvised weapon fashioned from his own restraints. Kirazat compiled these anomalies into a priority report for General Vortak, recommending tactical reassessment. The response came swiftly and ended his distinguished career. Vortak not only dismissed the concerns but ordered Kirazat's immediate replacement for exhibiting contamination by inferior thought patterns. His successor, eager to prove loyalty, immediately implemented more aggressive protocols against civilian populations. The resulting atrocities only accelerated human innovation in asymmetric warfare. Aboard Vortak's flagship, Captain Chen and her team navigated the vessel's waste reclamation system with chemical markers masking their human scent. The genetically modified pheromones coursing through their bloodstreams registered as maintenance bioforms to the ship's semi-sentient systems. Approaching Junction 7, Lieutenant Diaz whispered, his eyes unnaturally dilated from the gene therapy side effects. "Sensor node ahead." Chen held up a closed fist, halting the team as a gelatinous mass of what appeared to be intelligent fungus extended pseudopods across their path. The organism, part of the ship's immune system, wavered uncertainly, detecting their modified biochemistry. Moving with glacial slowness, Chen extended her hand, allowing a sample of her chemically altered sweat to touch the fungal mass. After a moment of apparent analysis, the organism retreated, accepting them as non-threatening components of the ship's ecosystem. "We're through the hardest checkpoint," Chen subvocalized through their encrypted communication implants. "Reactor control is 2 levels down." Behind them, Technical specialist Delgado carefully sealed the passage they'd used, ensuring no trace remained for the ship's automated systems to detect. The quantum-triggered explosives they planted throughout the vessel's vulnerable points were designed to appear as normal biofeedback nodes to the ship's self-diagnostic systems. Final package placement in 30 minutes, she confirmed. But Captain, there's something strange about this ship's neural architecture. It's different from the schematics we studied. Chen felt ice in her veins. Different how? This isn't just a warship, Delgado replied. Based on the neural density, I think this is a command hub for the entire Worldbreaker fleet. In the basement laboratory beneath MIT, Dr. Wong's fingers trembled not from fear, but from 3 days without sleep. The shield disruptor hummed on the testing platform, its components a bizarre fusion of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered Cyrillian technology. The harmonic frequency must be perfectly calibrated. She instructed her team as they made final adjustments. Too high, and it disperses ineffectively. Too low, and their adaptive systems compensate. At her side, Dr. Abernathy, a quantum physicist who'd abandoned tenure at Oxford to join the resistance, monitored energy fluctuations. We're approaching critical resonance. If the calculations from Captain Chen's team are correct, this should create a cascading failure in their shield matrix. When the disruptor fired, the results exceeded their most optimistic projections. The Exarillion shield sample, salvaged from a downed fighter, didn't simply fail. It collapsed catastrophically, releasing stored energy in a blinding flash that shattered the reinforced testing chamber's windows. "My God," whispered Wong, blinking away afterimages. "It's not just disrupting their shields, it's turning their own energy against them." The implications were immediately apparent to everyone present. A technology designed to be impervious to conventional weapons had a fundamental vulnerability to precisely calibrated harmonic pulses, a concept so alien to Cyrillian engineering that they had never developed countermeasures. As manufacturing facilities worldwide began production of the disruptors, Captain Chen's team reached the quantum computational core of Vortac's flagship. Unlike human computing systems based on binary logic, the Exarillion core resembled a massive biological brain suspended in nutrient fluid, pulsing with bioelectrical activity. Lieutenant Park, the team's AI specialist, unpacked specialized interface equipment designed by Earth's leading neuroscientists. "This is where it gets tricky," he warned, unspooling a neural interface filament. "Their computing architecture isn't based on linear logic. It's based on associative reasoning similar to Earth fungi." "How sure are you about this working?" Chen asked, eyeing the interface with justified concern. Park's smile was grim. 73%. Best case scenario. And worst case, my brain turns to soup and the ship detects the intrusion. His hands were steady despite the stakes. But the virus has to be uploaded directly to bypass their security protocols. There's no remote option. The neural interface resembled a crown of thorns, with microscopic filaments designed to penetrate Park's skull and create a direct connection between his brain and the alien system. Earth scientists had determined that the Exarillion computational systems, while advanced, were vulnerable to specific forms of illogical thinking, paradoxes and recursive loops that human minds could generate naturally, but that Cyrillian linear consciousness found impossible to process. "Humans are crazy enough to confuse their computers," Park had joked during training. Now the humor felt prophetic. As the team secured the area, Park's body arched in silent agony when the interface activated. Blood vessels in his eyes dilated and burst as his consciousness became the delivery mechanism for the most sophisticated computer virus ever created, a virus based not on code, but on thought patterns. Inside the system, Park experienced the Exarillion network as an endless ocean of light, each thought a current he could redirect. The virus wasn't software in any conventional sense. It was a series of logical contradictions and recursive paradoxes that he introduced into the perfectly ordered Cyrillian systems, like seeds of doubt in a mind that had never questioned itself. Chen watched in horror as Park's vitals fluctuated wildly. "How much longer?" she demanded. 2 minutes for full integration, technical specialist Delgado reported, monitoring the upload. "The ship's systems are attempting to isolate the infection, but they can't identify it. It doesn't register as an attack, just as inefficiency." That was the genius of the virus. Rather than triggering alarms by attacking critical systems directly, it introduced subtle errors that compound exponentially, targeting microsecond delays, minor calibration shifts, and environmental adjustments so gradual they wouldn't be noticed until too late. When Park finally collapsed, the interface disengaging automatically, his eyes were filled with blood, but consciousness remained. "It's done," he whispered. "I've given them the gift of human madness." Throughout the massive vessel, systems continued to function with apparent normality. But deep within its artificial consciousness, doubt had been planted, the first seeds of a catastrophic harvest that would bloom when most needed by humanity. As Chen's team retreated back into maintenance tunnels, Vortak received word that the World Breaker had arrived. Humanity's extinction now just hours away. The World Breaker fleet's arrival tore holes in the fabric of space itself, the massive displacement of energy, creating aurora-like effects, visible even in daylight across Earth's hemisphere. From his command center, Vortak watched with cold satisfaction as the planet's primitive defense systems registered the arrival of their extinction. "Begin targeting sequence," he ordered. "Priority on population centers exceeding 5 million inhabitants." His weapons officer acknowledged the command, initiating the complex targeting algorithms that would coordinate a simultaneous strike across 17 major cities. On the main display, targeting reticles materialized over New York, Shanghai, Lagos, London, and other metropolitan centers. "Firing solution complete," reported the officer, awaiting final authorization. Vortak was about to give the command when his personal communication implant vibrated with an incoming priority transmission. The holographic form of Imperial Overseer Zelvax materialized before him, her crystalline carapace glinting with the authority of the Imperial Council. "General Vortak," she began, her tone carrying the harmonic overtones of extreme displeasure, "our analysis of your campaign reveals disturbing inefficiencies. The Council requires immediate withdrawal for strategic reassessment." Vortak's mandibles clicked in rage. "Overseer, with respect, the humans are moments from annihilation. The World Breaker is in position. Victory is absolute." "Your assessment contradicts intelligence from multiple sources," she replied. 17 previous conquests required an average of 1.3 planetary rotations. This campaign has extended to 4.7 rotations with unacceptable resource expenditure. The implication was clear. His failure was now documented in the Imperial record. Withdrawal would mean disgrace. His 17 previous conquests forgotten in light of this single protracted engagement. The humans employed unexpected tactics, he argued, feeling control slipping away. But they are broken now. Observe. He transmitted footage of the massive World Breaker, its planet-killing weapon charging with energy that distorted light around it. The display should have impressed her, should have demonstrated his imminent triumph. Instead, her response was immediate and final. "You are relieved of command, General. Withdraw immediately." Something snapped in Vortak's mind, a fracture in his perfect discipline. With a gesture, he terminated the transmission, then turned to his command staff. "The Imperial Council has lost perspective," he announced. "We will complete this conquest as planned." His executive officer hesitated, mandibles twitching in uncertainty. "General, the override protocols require." Vortak struck without warning, his neural whip severing the officer's primary nerve cluster. As the body collapsed, he addressed the remaining staff. "Any further objections?" Silence answered him. With grim determination, he activated manual override protocols, assuming direct control of all fleet systems. Target Earth's continental defense installations first, then proceed with population centers. Maximum yield on all weapons. Across the fleet, his orders propagated through the command network. But within that network, Lieutenant Park's virus had been quietly spreading, introducing microscopic errors in transmission protocols. As Vortak's commands reached the World Breaker, subtle corruptions altered targeting parameters by fractions of degrees, enough to redirect planet-killing energy toward other Xyrillian vessels instead of Earth. Meanwhile, in his inner sanctum, Vortak received the first indications of something wrong. Environmental controls slowly adjusting oxygen levels downward while temperature increased, subtle changes his stressed biology didn't immediately register. The ship was literally turning against him, though so gradually he didn't perceive the threat. As the World Breaker powered its main weapon to full capacity, targeting locks that should have been fixed on Earth, instead acquired 3 Xyrillian cruisers. The discrepancy was flagged by automated systems, but the verification protocols, corrupted by Park's virus, reported all parameters normal. When the weapon fired, the blinding energy burst didn't streak toward Earth as intended. Instead, it engulfed the support vessels in apocalyptic fire, vaporizing 3 ships and 30,000 Xyrillian crew instantly. On his command deck, Vortak stared in disbelief at the destruction. "What has happened?" he demanded, his voice rising to a chittering shriek. "Targeting systems report. Functioning within normal parameters," his weapons officer responded, confusion evident in his harmonic undertones. "But the visual confirmation shows." Before he could finish, secondary explosions rippled through the destroyed vessels. Through the viewports, Vortak watched his perfect invasion force descending into chaos, precisely targeted shield disruptors from Earth's surface now activating in coordination with the misfiring Worldbreaker. For the first time in his illustrious career, Vortak felt something alien to his kind: fear. The United Earth Council chamber, constructed in the 3 months since the Xyrillian defeat, blended architecture from every human culture, a physical manifestation of the unprecedented unity forged in resistance. As the imperial matriarch's ceremonial procession entered, humans witnessed something no conquered species had ever seen: a Xyrillian leader in a state of vulnerability. Her protective carapace, normally sealed against environmental threats, had been partially retracted, exposing sensitive neural clusters in what xenobiologists recognized as the Xyrillian equivalent of approaching unarmed. The gesture's significance wasn't lost on the assembled representatives. General Hayes, now bearing the title of Earth Defense Coordinator, stepped forward to meet her. "We welcome the Imperial Matriarch to Earth," he announced, his voice carried by translators that converted his words into the complex harmonics of Xyrillian communication. Through her own translators, the matriarch's response resonated with unfamiliar tones: uncertainty, something previously unthinkable in Xyrillian diplomatic discourse. "We come seeking understanding of what we fail to comprehend." In the maximum security facility built to house Vortak, Captain Chen arrived for her daily session with the captured general. The medical wing had been designed with input from xenobiologists to provide an environment that wouldn't torture the Xyrillian physiology while still preventing escape. Chen found Vortak examining a holographic display of Earth's historical conflicts. "Your species fights itself constantly," he observed as she entered, "yet united perfectly against us." "We're complicated," Chen replied, taking her usual seat across from him. The burns on her face had healed, though scars remained, a permanent reminder of first contact. "Today I learned about something your people call martial arts," Vortak continued, his voice now carrying the translator's approximation of curiosity. "You create fighting systems designed to allow physically weaker opponents to defeat stronger ones. This concept does not exist in our culture." Chen nodded. "The Xyrillian approach to combat is strength against strength. Direct application of superior force, which had always been sufficient," Vortak acknowledged, "until humans." Their conversation was interrupted by an alert, the diplomatic broadcast from the council chambers. Chen activated the display, allowing Vortak to witness the historic meeting. On screen, The matriarch was completing the unprecedented ritual of lowering her protective systems completely, a gesture of ultimate trust that caused gasps among the Cerulean diplomatic corps accompanying her. "We believed our way was the only way," the matriarch was saying. 17 subjugated worlds reinforced this belief. Humans have demonstrated alternatives. As the peace treaty terms appeared on a secondary display, Vortak's compound eyes widened in disbelief. "Teachers," he chittered. "The Empire is requesting teachers." Chen nodded. "Not military advisors or weapon technologies. Cultural exchanges, educational programs, philosophical frameworks. To understand how humans think," Vortak realized, the concept finally crystallizing in his alien consciousness. "To understand why we fight so fiercely among ourselves yet unite against external threats," Chen elaborated. "Why we can be simultaneously self-destructive and self-sacrificing. How we balance individual ambition with collective action." A notification appeared, informing Chen that Vortak's sentencing would proceed in 1 hour. The former general received the news with unexpected calm. "I know what your people do to war criminals," he stated. "In the Empire, I would be dismembered publicly, my neural clusters preserved to experience pain eternally as warning to others." Chen didn't correct his assumption. Instead, she simply escorted him to the transport that would take him to the council chambers. When they arrived, the matriarch had concluded the treaty signing. Earth's representatives were approving the final protocols when Vortak was brought before them to receive judgment. General Hayes himself read the sentence. "General Vortak, architect of an invasion that cost millions of human lives, you have been found guilty of crimes against humanity." Vortak's posture straightened, preparing for execution with the dignity expected of his rank. "Your sentence is thus: you will live among us. You will study our art, literature, philosophy, and history. You will learn why we fought as we did, and you will transmit this understanding to your people. Your punishment is comprehension of those you sought to eradicate." The sentence hit Vortak harder than any execution could have. He would be forced to understand the species he had dismissed as primitives, to confront the complexity his military mind had fatally simplified. As he was led from the chamber, he noticed Captain Chen standing at attention, rendering a perfect military salute, not mocking, but acknowledging a defeated opponent's dignity. Something broke within Vortak then, a fundamental restructuring of thought. From his compound eyes fell the first tears ever documented in Cerulean physiology, secretions his species' biology had never evolved for emotional release because their culture had never recognized the need for it. "I understand now," he whispered, words meant for Chen alone. "Your mercy is more devastating than any weapon."